Start big, go small, repeat until you have a novel. That just about covers it.
10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
So last year I made a video about how important it is to outline your book, and I had a couple of requests to detail exactly how I would go about that and maybe give some tips about how to go about that. So here's a step-by-step guide as to exactly how I would go about outlining a brand new novel right from scratch. First of all, one big misconception. A lot of people are under the impression that once you've written an outline, that's it. It's set in stone. You literally cannot do anything else to change the story. You are stuck because you wrote the outline and now you've got to live with it. Nothing's further from the truth. The outline is just a guide. Think of it as like the GPS for your journey. Once you're on the road, if you want to take a detour, you can take a detour. That's fine. The GPS will just help you get back on track. You don't want to set it on a road trip of a lifetime to Vegas and not have the vaguest idea of how you're going to get there. Okay? The most likely outcome of that is that you will just never make it to Vegas. You might as well have the GPS to help you get there. So, without further ado, here we go. Step 1, concept. Figure out what your story is about, what you're trying to say and why you're trying to say it. Look, this doesn't have to be extremely specific at this stage, it's just a really broad outline. What you want is a paragraph. Imagine you're at a party and someone has come up to you and said, "Oh, you're writing a book, what's it about?" At this stage of the process, you just want to come up with an answer to that question. So, talk for too long and they'll be bored or confused. Don't talk long enough and they'll be completely uninterested. So I did one using my MS as an example, and I'm just going to read it. So as an answer to that question, I would say, a few hundred years into the future, the last remaining ship full of human beings has almost made it to their new homeworld when disaster strikes. The son of the captain, Dom, finds out that his own brother has betrayed the mission, and it's up to him to get the crew to their destination before it's too late. Okay, that's all you need to do. Step 2, summary. Okay, now you've got the concept. You know what it's about. You need to be more specific. You've started big, we're getting smaller. This is when you do a summary of the entire book. 1 or 2 pages, you can do more if you like, but basically just flesh out your major characters and the plot points. This time, don't imagine somebody's asked you what the book is about. Imagine somebody's asked you to tell them the entire plot of a movie you've just seen recently, okay? Except that that movie happens to be your book. You've got to tell them the major plot points in order. You've got to summarize who the characters are, how they interact, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, romances, all that sort of stuff. You've got to get it in there. I haven't got a great deal of time in this video, I'm already probably over time, but if you can click the link downstairs to my private channel, that'll take you through to 2 examples. One is a summary I did of the film Jurassic Park, and so you can get an idea of how specific to be during this step. If you've seen Jurassic Park, you'll know how broad-stroked this summary is. The other example I've done is for a novel that I wrote ages ago called Page and McTaggart, Space Detectives, so that'll give you an idea of what sort of information to include when you don't know the source material in the first place. The main thing to remember is that this is the part where you decide the shape of the story. We're getting smaller. We've done concept, now we're going to decide how we do that. Is the ending happy? Where is the action? When is the action? Is there a romance? When is the romance? This is the time to decide that in the summary. Step 3 is a big leap. It is the chapter by chapter summary. So this is a huge step up in detail, and this is the point where you'll hit the most snags. Just remember, don't get too frustrated, okay? If you get stuck here, it just means that you would have gotten stuck here during the writing process anyway, okay? All you've done is just found out about it earlier. You found out about it during the outline, so you can fix it now. This is the part where you go ahead and let your imagination run wild. Start typing. I usually will do about 200 or 300 words per chapter. It doesn't have to be that, it can be shorter, it can be longer, it's up to you. You can throw in lines of dialogue that you've thought of if you think they're relevant. If that happens to be a really cool moment you've thought should happen here, just write it down. This is the time to imagine your story playing out in order, okay? Get a really, really big idea of what is going to be the most awesome thing that can happen at that point in the story and write it down. You can click through here as well to find another example of me doing a chapter by chapter summary summary of the first 2 summaries of my book, Crisis Generation, that is as yet unpublished. And that'll give you an idea of the sort of details to include in this step when you come down to this level of detail, okay? It's important to remember that what works for me may not work for you. You might have a different process, you might want to go so much more detailed, you might want to do so much less detail. Just the important part is that you do what makes you happy. I'm happy with a framework that means I don't have to constantly remind myself while I'm typing what comes next. Okay, so if I'm in the middle of doing a 3,000 word chapter, I don't want to have to be sitting there thinking, what happens after this? I know what happens after this because I can just look at my outline document, which is right next to my main document, and it will tell me exactly where I need to finish this scene. Tips. Okay, so when you're doing these outlines, imagination is your friend. Just go with what your brain tells you. I'm a big believer in imagining the book just like it's playing out like a high-stakes melodrama / fantasy epic in your head, okay? And then just transcribe the best bits. I'm also a big fan of acting out scenes, which sounds really, really mad to anyone else listening, so make sure you're alone when you do it. Just on your own, go ahead and just voice all the characters in that scene. Imagine what's happening and actually say it out loud, and you'll be amazed where those conversations take you. Ad-lib it, vibe it, you'll come up with the best stuff. Some of the very best moments and lines, I think, from my MS have come from me sitting in the car, imagining that I am the people in the story, and just writing down what happens to come out of my mouth. And I've gone way over time. I'm really sorry. I just hope this has been helpful to some of you. Go ahead and check out those supplementary videos if you like. You don't have to. This will give you a rough idea. If you have any questions or anything, go ahead and ask them in the comments and I will try to answer them or tweet them through. Anything, just have fun. That's it, guys. See you next week.